Hello, everybody. Sunday Delaja here from Kiev, Ukraine. I'm starting a new series today that is called Understanding Suicide, Mass Shooting, and Depression. Now, there is to in life. So this new series is going to be going live every day, maybe for the next 1 or 2 months, because it's such a serious problem and it's such a worldwide phenomena that we need to pay as much attention to it as possible. But you notice that what I'm talking about today is not just understanding suicide, but there are three things that I've put together here. You could still add more if you want, but the most eye-catching and the most headlines in our world today are the questions and the issues of suicide, questions and issues of mass shooting, and of course depression. So, but why this order? Why this connection? Why did I put it in this order? But first of all, suicide is the most alarming thing we see, and the most common thing is actually, even though mass shooting is more deadly and it's more dangerous, it's more alarming actually, but it's not as common as you have suicide. Suicide has become almost a daily, it's not almost a daily phenomenon, it's actually a daily phenomenon. Every 40 seconds, sometimes it's every 30 seconds, there is a suicide going on in the world. So that's the number one issue we have to tackle. And we've got to understand where it's coming from, what are the reasons for suicide, and how people could understand what lead to suicide and how they could prevent suicide, because you cannot cure suicide, you can only prevent suicide. And because once suicide takes place, that's usually the end of one's life. So understanding suicide, but apart from suicide, there is this new phenomenon that used to just be in America and has now gone to Europe, and now it's gone to New Zealand and other parts of the world, which is mass shooting. But a lot of people don't know they don't know that there is a connection between suicide, mass shooting, and depression. Now, I'm not talking about mass shooting in terms of jihad, when people come and shoot people and kill themselves and kill many other people. Jihad is a bit different. But what I'm dealing with, and the reason I'm dealing with this topic, is because these are dysfunctionalities. These are disorders. These are trouble areas that are connected with human mental health, and mainly with human health. So it is important that we all know that actually we all stand the danger, or could stand the danger, of being a victim of this, either being killed by somebody, or even being a victim in terms of being a perpetrator of one of these things. You say, no, I will never shoot another person, I will never kill another person. I think most people who have done that, apart from the jihadists, will probably say the same thing on the good day when things were okay for them. But so what led them to do it? That's why I think that this should now be a topic that must be addressed universally and worldwide. And it has to be addressed, especially by someone like myself, who deals with multiple people or masses of people on a regular basis. So if we have the ears of a multitude of people, a lot of people, we must also educate them to let the whole world know that suicide is not such an epidemic that is like a plague, like people used to look at it. Most people will look at suicide and think, oh, those guys are crazy. How could he take his life? How could he take his life? That's the worst thing you could do. Commit suicide? And we think that people who do that have just lost it, and there is not something wrong with them, and there is something not all right with them. But it's not always so, and it's not always so because suicide is much more complex than that. And that's why I'm giving this topic like understanding suicide, mass shooting, and depression. They are all connected. So, but you see that I put as number one suicide, number two mass shooting, and then the last one is depression. So why depression? Why is it that depression has to be the last one here? Because depression is the root of all others. Depression is actually the root cause of suicide. And in like 99% of the situation, I guarantee you, depression is also the explanation or the root cause for mass shooting. But most of the suicide that you observe, maybe 99.8 or 99.9 of the suicide cases are connected with depression. So this is a big question, and that is why I'm going to start with the root. Because if we are able to deal with the root cause of this problem, if we are able to deal with the root, then we will be making a whole lot of progress on the other part, on the issues of suicide and on the issues of mass shooting. If we will be able to deal with the root problem that we are talking about, which is depression, it will be easier to solve all other issues, all other problems. So so today is going to be my first class, and it's going to be on understanding depression. So today we're going to be talking about understanding depression. That is the topic that we're dealing with today, understanding depression. So if you know anyone that might be suffering from this serious disorder and sickness, please don't judge them, don't be harsh at them or with them, don't condemn them, don't crucify them. So I hope you'll be able to invite them to come and have a look at this program, and not just this one, because it's going to be a series of teachings I'm going to be doing in connection to all this topic. So the whole series is going to be called Understanding Suicide, Mass Shooting, and Depression. But at the root of everything, like I said, is depression. So we're starting with depression, and we're going to deal with it gradually till we come to the end of the whole series. So understanding depression is the topic of today. So what is depression? First of all, what we have to say that we all should change our views about depression and begin to see it as real illness with serious consequences. So we should stop seeing depression as disorder in terms of somebody is mad or someone is crazy. We have to begin to see depression as a sickness. So people who are sick, people who are depressed, they are actually just like you would deal with people who are sick. All of us, we encounter sickness all the time. There is nobody that is without sickness all his life. We all go fall sick. We all go have health issues. So when somebody is having depression, and most of the time when when I used to think about depression, I used to just think, not just me, I used to just think about depression as something that, not just me, but the whole world. My own impression of depression was, maybe you just have bad mood for that day. So people say, I'm depressed today. Well, that is not the kind of depression I'm talking about. When I'm addressing this topic of depression, I'm talking about clinical depression. So remember that word, clinical depression. So I'm not talking about the depression that you have when you just have bad mood, or when the weather is bad, or when you feel that you are not feeling good. No. We trivialize the meaning of this problem. We trivialize the gravity of the problem when we just think that depression is just somebody not feeling good, or that's just that's just having bad mood. Now there are those kind of situations when you just feel like you are having momentary depression, but that's not what we are dealing with here. We are not dealing with this kind of depression of you just having bad mood. No. And we're not using the word casually, like normal, regular person will use it and say, oh, I'm depressed today. I'm a bit depressed. I don't feel, I'm a bit depressed. No, that's not what we're saying. When we're talking about depression in this series, we're going to be talking about depression as clinical depression, which means as a serious illness that could carry a death sentence with it. So depression, real depression, could carry death sentence with it. So real depression is clinical depression that often or could eventually lead to either suicide or lead to mass shooting. So when you see somebody goes for a mass shooting like that, is most likely they are depressed. And when you see any other person that commits suicide, it's most likely they had suffered for a lengthy period of time or for a considerable amount of time from depression. So suicide, therefore, is like the final stage of depression. Mass shooting, too, could be a form of final stage of depression. So that's why we must take depression serious, because it could cost you your life. But even if you are not the one suffering from depression, it could still cost you your life if you don't take it serious. Because the person that is depressed could be your relative, and that person could kill you. I've heard of stories when a son in England killed the mother. And these are Africans, and this mother is a leader in our church. She just came back from night vigil, we call it, like night prayers. And she got back home trying to say some things to the son, and the son murdered her. And because the son had been in a state of depression for years, and this mother didn't just know how to treat it, and she didn't even know it was depression. So today, this week, and in this season, this series, I'm going to be dealing with how to even identify depression, how to identify it in yourself, and how to help other people identify it. So, but because if that lady, if that mother, if that mommy, that mother had identified the issues that the son was dealing with, she wouldn't have kept on pushing him to go to church. She wouldn't have kept on pushing him to, pray, to wake up in the morning, read the Bible, read his Bible, and all those things. Because most of the time when you do that to a depressed person, you only make things worse. There are some things you don't tell a depressed person, and we're going to talk about that maybe much later as well. And so you don't want to, and it's mostly because of lack of understanding. We just don't understand why people do what they do and what they are feeling when they're going through those situations, and we think we want to help them. And often it happens that those who try to help people who are depressed are the ones who actually push them to suicide. Often those who try to help the depressed people make things worse, and sometimes they could even push them to mass shooting. So, so we have all of us who have to take depression much more serious. Stop looking at it as a trivial thing. Stop looking at it as an emotional instability or as an attitude of unruly, unserious child or son. According to World Health Organization, WHO, depression is now listed as a leading cause of disability. Actually, depression is now viewed as disability. Kada ya smo tupira matada strazo nada ataitiot. Ekrana ni nada menshi pakazwa test. Kada ya smo trusuda watak ni nada pakazwa test. So idaje kada ya shita ototo ni nada yaskaju kada nada. So World Health Organization lists depression as a disability right now. Do you know what disability is? When someone is blind, it's regarded as a disability. When somebody doesn't have legs, it's regarded as disability. When someone doesn't have, when someone has suffered some accident and is disabled, it's regarded as disability. So when someone is crippled, that is disability. Can you believe it? Depression is being categorized and being grouped in the same category as disability. So depression is as bad as crippleness, as being crippled. Depression is as bad as being blind. Depression is as bad as losing some major organs of your body, like your feet or like your hands. So depression will cripple you as much as lack of legs will cripple you. Depression will cripple you as much as lack of eyes will cripple you, or blindness will cripple you. Depression will cripple you as much as accident will cripple you. So that is, if you want me to define depression for you, depression is something, a disease of the soul. Depression is a disease of, not of the body. You could go to the clinic or to the hospital, and people will take clinical diagnosis of you and tell you that you are okay. So depression is not a clinical disease as such. It's not a physical disease. So you could have everything going on for you physically perfectly. So not everybody will think that you're okay. Actually, you could give your blood analysis, you could give all kind of analysis, and they will tell you that you're okay, unless you go to discover and to realize that there is another kind of disease that could trouble somebody. You see, a man, all of us, we consist of spirit, soul, and body. But most of what the classical medicine deals with is normally, whatever is wrong with your physical body. So medicine, as we know, it deals with the body. So if you go to the hospital and they check your heart, they say, oh, you're okay, your heart is beating well. They check your body, they check your blood, and they say, oh, everything is okay. And you could go home and think you are all right. So if medicine and doctors could make a mistake of not being able to put a diagnosis on you, of not being able to detect your sickness, even with machines and with their instruments, they will not be able to detect most of the time depression. They will just think that you are okay, unless you begin to tell them some other things. And even if you tell them, they will think, no, you're okay, no problem. I mean, nothing is wrong with you, unless you go to specialists. Specialist doctors, mainly psychotherapists or psychologists or psychiatrists. So if you don't go to those kind of people who specialize, and what is the difference between a doctor and a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist? The difference is that the doctors take care of the body, they heal the body, they diagnose the body, whatsoever is wrong with the body. But you must also know because this is what most people don't know. They don't realize that they are not their body. That even though you have body is part of you, but that is not really the totality of who you are. You are more than your body. And a major part of you that is as important as your body, maybe even more important, is your soul. And that soul is what is affected when you suffer, when you are sick from depression. When you suffer from depression, it is your soul that is sick. Your body is okay. You might be doing everything like every other normal person, and most people might not even recognize or be aware of what's going on. You could go to work, you are going to work, you are getting pregnant, you're giving birth to children, you walk, you talk, you go to church, you sing, you do everything that other people do. But there are some other symptoms that we're going to talk about that will make us to know if a person is depressed or not, and if you are depressed or not. But for regular people who don't really know you, who don't know who you are or your personality, and even for doctors who are normal doctors, they will not be able to detect. They might not be able to detect what you are really suffering from. So depression is not a sickness of the body. Depression is a sickness of the soul. But it's a sickness. Just like you get headache, which is a sickness, Depression is a sickness, but it's not that, oh, I'm feeling pain in my head, I'm feeling pain in my leg, I'm feeling pain in my eyes, I'm feeling pain in my... No, you will not feel pain like that. So pain, as you talk, physical pains like that, they belong to doctors who treat the body, to the sickness of the body, but they don't belong to the sickness of the soul, which is depression. So, so just like you could have disability of the body when you lose your sight, or you have disability of the body when you have an accident and you lose your 2 legs or your hands, or you become paralyzed, same effect happens under depression. You could actually become paralyzed too. You will not be paralyzed physically, right? You are walking, you are doing everything, but you are actually paralyzed. But in the soul, because any individual comprises of 3, we are threefold or 3 pieces, or whatever you call it. We are 3 in 1. We are 3 in 1. So just like our body is whole, like you see me and you see yourself as a whole person, that is the way you look in the soul as well. There's another person who is a whole person, like just like you are, but it's not physical, but it is still you standing, a whole complete person in the soul. And then the third aspect of it is that you are a whole complete person in the spirit as well. But what we are dealing with this time is that I wanted you to see the difference between sickness, which we call sickness, physical sickness that are connected to the body, and depression, which is a sickness of the soul that we don't always see as sickness. Now, I don't want to, some people call the old, because medicine, that is medicine, call when this old sickness of the soul, they refer to it in general as mental health problem, mental health issues, mental health problems. But that is just their own way of describing it, because they don't know, that is the best way they could describe it. But really, yes, it's not just mental health, because if you say a depressed person is mental, you know what people think? They will think, oh, it's a psychiatric case, it's lost its mind. No, but a depressed person is not mental, in the sense that it's not, his sickness is connected to his mental health, but he's not mad, it's not, it's not crazy in the sense of having a mental disorder, in the sense of being, schizophrenia and things like that. That is different. That is another level. So it could be, it's also a sickness of the soul, but it's another thing entirely. It's another problem. But depression is not mental sick. It's not mental sickness. It's not being mentally insane. So yeah, that's a better way to say. Depression is not insanity. Yes, depression is affecting your soul. Insanity too affects your soul, but insanity affects more than your soul. Insanity affects not just your soul. Insanity most of the time affects your brain, your body too. So but basically, it's also a problem of the soul. So when the point I'm trying to make here is that World Health Organization has recognized this fact. They've recognized the fact that just like we could have physical disability, yes, that the same way we could have disability of the soul. So, and that disability of the soul is called depression. Okay, if somebody could be blind with disability of the body, right? With physical disability, most often it's only one thing or the other. So most people who have physical disability are either blind. So when you're blind, but you still have your legs, or they have accident, they've lost their legs, but maybe they still have their eyes, or maybe they can't hear, but they still have their eyes, or they can't hear and they can't talk, but they still have their hands and their legs. So, but that is with physical disability. Yes, any physical disability affects the whole of your body, right? But with soul disability, which is depression, or with the sickness of the soul, it is a disability because it's not just the eye that is affected, or the legs that are affected, or the feet that are affected, or the hands that are affected in the soul realm. It's like everything is paralyzed. Just like blindness will make you not to see, when you have depression, you stop seeing. Just like lack of legs will deprive you of the ability to move and walk about, when you are depressed, you have the two together. You have the ability, you suffer from the disability, a disability from seeing, you will not be able to see, and you will not also be able to walk. You know, if you lose your hands, you'll not be able to use your hands, right? That's physical disability. But when you have soul disability, which is depression, it's like you lose everything at the same time. You lose your eye, you don't see. You know, I want you to be able to understand what I'm saying. It means that you stop. Okay, what is saying? You know, seeing is a state of the mind. You will be able to see, you know, not just physically. You know, physical eyes, with the physical eyes you see physically, but with the mind you see, you know, you see things that are not physical. So when you have depression and when your soul is sick, you lose your ability to be able to, just like you lose your ability to see when you are blind, you lose your ability to see. You don't see things anymore. You are seeing physically, but in your mind you are not seeing things like you were before you got sick. Because of that sickness, you cannot physically, when you lose your leg you cannot walk, but there when you are depressed, you cannot, you feel you lose your leg too. Even though you don't need to walk with your soul, right? But you feel like you are bound or bind. It's like your legs are cut off. It's like your feet are cut off. It's like your hands are cut off and your eyes are removed. So it's a total disability. So when WHO, World Health Organization, talks about suicide as being a disability, they know what they're talking about, because it is now a major contributor to overall number of disease. Is in the list of WHO. Depression is now regarded as the number one thing that leads to physical disease and physical sickness. It has a big position in it's called mental health issues, but it is regarded as one of the most serious health issues in the world right now. So it's regarded as on top of the list of disabilities and sicknesses. It's regarded to be on top. So it's regarded to be on top of the list of, disabilities. So, but because of my time is coming to an end today. I'm going to call this Understanding Depression Part 1. So we have to write that. So understanding, nada pamenya brings the as well. No, nada pranta babit plus the Part 1. So this is going to just be Part 1 of this topic on understanding depression, because I thought I was going to be able to do it faster, but I'm going to deal with it even deeper. I'm going to come back tomorrow and talk more about this. So understanding depression is important that we started with this. So depression is much more complex. I'm not going to talk about when the spirit is sick. How do you look at that? That's more spiritual kind of stuff. But what we're dealing with is suicide, mass shooting, and depression. So when somebody, why does this depression, why is it so serious? Why is it that the World Health Organization, we group it as the top of the health challenges of our generation? because depression, when someone is really suffering from it and when there is no quick solution and it's been lingering for so long, it could, like I said, lead to suicide. But that is because a person is feeling as if he's disabled, not just with his feet caught, he's also feeling as if his arms and hands are cut off, and he's feeling as if his eyes are puffed out, are removed. So it's like, so if you get to that place, and a lot of people who get to that place physically also try to commit suicide, because when they think that they have lost the essence of life and there is nothing to live for. So just like people after accident or after they become disabled, they want to kill themselves. Same thing happened to a depressed person. But in the case of a depressed person, it's not just disabled in one area. It's a disabled totally in almost all area of his life. When you suffer from depression, you feel your disability affecting you. It's like you've lost your eyes, you've lost your ears, you've lost your mind, you've lost your feet, you've lost your, even though you are functioning the physically you are living like every other person, but what the person is feeling inside is what matters. If the person can even be telling you the right words, the person can even be telling you what you want to hear and playing along and being a good wife, being a good husband, trying to being even a good student, but if his internal well-being is not okay, if he's depressed inside, you could just hear one day that he has committed suicide, because nobody is understanding him. Nobody is seeing what is wrong with him. Everybody is trying to correct him about other things, or everybody is trying to complain about what is other, physical things, because that's the only thing we see. So the challenge with depression is that people don't see what your soul, they don't see the state of the sickness of your soul. And even the specialists, psychiatrists and psychotherapists, they will only be able to identify your situation after talking to you. You have to say what is wrong with you, then they give you a diagnosis. But just by looking at you, not always, most of the time they will not be able to tell. So depression, therefore, becomes the most deadly kind of sickness and disease in the world today. Plus the fact that it's so severe that it leads to somebody committing suicide every 30 seconds or every 40 seconds. Worldwide, in every country. And it doesn't matter what your status is. Rich, poor, young, old. But we'll talk more about it tomorrow. My time, unfortunately, is over for today. So I would like you to go and share this message, share with your friends and family members. And I would also like you to consider sending this message to people in their inboxes, and let them follow all the messages. And if you see that book, Don't Touch Me, I'm Hurting. When you see people feeling like that, when you hear people say, don't touch me, or I'm hurting, or that is a sign right there. Please get this book and understand what is wrong and how to deal with it. But this one I've written for people themselves who are feeling like that. But if you don't feel like that, but you could still, it will help you to understand people who feel that way. So please go ahead and share the message. And if you have not yet joined my mentorship program, go to sundayadelajahblog.com/mentorship. If you want to join our Nigerian project, go to sundayadelajahblog.com/Nigeria. If you want to get my books, you can get all of them on Amazon.com. You could get them electronically on okadabooks.com. Or if you are in Africa, Nigeria, you could also get them on DSA Books Planet. One word. DSA Books Planet. dsabooksplanet.com. But if you want to buy my books in bulk, like many books, and you want to buy them cheaper than on Amazon, then you could write to my office by writing to dsasbooks at gmail.com. dsasbooks@gmail.com. So that will be it for today, and I'll come back and see you tomorrow to continue. Peace.